Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. So today I thought I would cover the no-nos of what to do as a buyer when you're looking to buy a property. And I was inspired by this because I was tagged in a group on Facebook saying, hey, I'm looking for a realtor, and several of my clients have referred me. And I saw a lot of feedback in as far as things that people were saying, unfortunately based on their own experience. But in being that I've been in real estate since 2002, I kind of reflected on all the different things that buyers did that actually wound up hurting them. So I think this was a great opportunity. So I'm just going to go in no particular order. I have a little checklist here on my phone, so I'm going to go through that. One of the big things that we see is buyers start looking at houses and they start just calling the agent on the sign. And what they don't understand is the agent on the sign is probably the agent that represents the seller. So in a transaction in real estate in Texas, there's usually two agents involved. One agent represents the buyer, one agent represents the seller. So in any kind of negotiating, there's always going to be per se a winner and a loser. Now, historically, we have also come to learn that when they work in a spirit of cooperation, you have the best outcome for both parties. Okay, not the absolutely best, but the idea is to get a house sold, get to the finish line. If a seller wants to sell, sell. If a buyer wants to buy, buy. And even though our personal opinion or taste in the house may not be the same as the buyer's, it's not for us to choose, it's for the buyer to decide. Okay, so the mistake that they make there is that when they go directly to the seller's agent, the agent has an obligation to share any information that the buyer tells them with the seller. So it puts them at a disadvantage. Okay, the other thing that they also do is that they don't stick with one realtor. Now, we are straight commission, which means that we don't get paid unless we sell a house. So it doesn't really benefit us when agents jump from, clients jump from agent to agent. In addition to that, the problem with that is you don't have an agent that you've been working with consistently that can tell you, we saw this house, remember, and it had that. Now this house does have this or does have that. And they can kind of keep track and start gauging what the buyer needs or what their concerns are. And if you're jumping from realtor to realtor, then you don't have anybody to kind of have a good idea of where you're at. So if you're, see a house and you just randomly go see it, you don't know that that has the same floor plan as another house that you've already seen, and it was something that you hated. But a seasoned realtor will let you know and be like, oh, this is this builder and this is this floor plan. Remember, we saw it on this side of town. So that's the other thing. It's kind of doing a disservice to the client as well. Also, a knowledgeable realtor will let you know what the market is. So currently we are in a seller's market, which means that if you are a buyer and you want the best possibility of purchasing a house, then I would inform the buyer and say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this is the average days on market for the side of town you're looking on. This is, you're going to be facing multiple offers and you're going to be competing. And so if you want the house and if you want to be successful in the home purchase, let's take a look at the house. If it's something that you absolutely love, then I will probably say, okay, based on this house, this area, this market, these are the terms that I suggest you come in with. And sometimes it's not what the buyer wants to hear. Sometimes the buyer wants to come in and lowball everything. And that's probably not going to accomplish the goal of purchasing a house for them. And so buyers a lot of times will not take a realtor's advice, and they won't make the offer that they are being suggested. Okay, now if it was the opposite, if we were in the buyer's market, then yes, absolutely, you have the wiggle room, you have the ability to negotiate price and terms and everything else. Okay, the other thing is, one of the really sad things that I saw is that realtors are just in it for themselves. And unfortunately, there's always going to be a bad apple in the barrel. That's with anything across the board. As for myself, I've been in the business such a long time that if I took the mentality of I'm just going to sell my house and move on, that would never give me the repeat business that I get. I would not have clients coming back to me. I would not have clients referring me to their friends, their family, their loved ones to send business back to me. And so I think it's important to note that. If you do your research, if you look online reviews, if you get a referral from somebody else, that'll give you a very strong indication as far as their morality and their ethics. Let's see. The other thing is, and I see this time and time again, a buyer says, oh, well, let's go look for a house first and then I'll get pre-qualified. Well, you're actually doing things backwards. And the reason is, let's say you fall in love with something and you think, you know what, I can afford it. I have great credit. Let's do it. But then it takes a week to get pre-qualified because your finances are more complicated, or there's something on the credit report that showed up that you had no idea. And so if you're in a crazy seller's market and you want to make an offer on a property that you find and you fall in love with, the seller will not take you seriously if you don't have a pre-qual letter. And if it takes you that long to get a pre-qual letter, they're probably going to wind up just looking at what's already on the table, offers that already have pre-quals, and they will make a decision based on that. So you just wound up shooting yourself in the foot because you did not do the pre-qual first. The other thing is assuming you have great credit and you're good to go, and based on that you want this price range. Well, a lot of people don't factor in closing costs, time that they need. Do they have to sell a house first? All those things. So that's why it's very important to get the finances done first and then start looking at a property, because then you're best equipped to make the best possible offer. Okay. Let's see. That you have time to sleep on it. Okay. I am all for making educated decisions. I'm all for never pressuring a client to pull the trigger if they're not comfortable. It's also my obligation to tell them, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I know that you want to sleep on it. And if this was a buyer's market, absolutely sleep on it. Now, the thing you have to remember is if another offer comes in and, you're still sleeping on it, you've just either lost your negotiating power by being the only offer if you would have pulled the trigger first, or you may have lost the ability to buy the house because maybe the seller thought that offer was so great that they just took it. So listen to your realtor. They'll tell you if they feel like you've got the time to sleep on it, to think about it, all that good stuff. A good realtor will educate you and give you a real good idea of what the market is, what fair value is or market value is, what you need to do to get the house that you want. So, of course, lowballing the offer. Sellers who have realtors are going to be educated. The realtor will tell them, based on the current market, this is where you should price your house. And usually there's a buffer, and anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 is what I've seen in the El Paso market. Other markets could be different, and of course it could also be based on the price range. The bigger the price range, maybe the bigger the buffer. So if a buyer comes in and offers $20,000 under between closing costs and sales price, let's say they come in $10,000 under asking price, and then they want another $10,000 in closing costs, they've just basically come in and offered the seller $20,000 less for their property. Now, if you were the seller and you had a realtor and they were telling you that you could get XYZ for the house, but a buyer comes in and offers you $20,000 less, the house that you live in, that you feel emotionally attached to, the house that's going to sell and get you the proceeds that you need to go on with your life, an offer like that is going to insult you. And then what happens? What I typically see is the buyer makes a low ball offer, the seller gets insulted, they come back full price, I'm not giving you anything. And now they've just shot themselves in the foot. They've insulted the seller, and the seller has now tightened up on doing any negotiating at all. They're not going to want to work with them. So that's the other thing. Of course, there's different circumstances involved. Maybe the seller's been sitting on the property a long time and they're willing to look at stuff like that. But that's something that you should talk to the realtor about as well. And the other thing is, you don't need a realtor. Well, that's true. You can buy a house without a realtor. The only thing is that if you buy a house without a realtor, it's kind of like going to divorce court without an attorney. And do you really want to do that? Going through divorce is a big deal financially and emotionally and legally, right? Well, guess what the home purchase is? It's the same thing. So you want somebody that's going to be level-headed, that knows the implications of every blank in the contract, because every blank in the Texas real estate contracts has a potential for affecting you in both a positive or negative way. And maybe you don't understand, maybe you know that these are your options, but you don't know which one of those options will lead you to the best end result. So, yes, you can buy a house. Would I ever buy a house without a realtor? No. Even as seasoned and knowledgeable as I am, I would still need somebody to keep me emotionally detached so that I can make the best financial decisions. Because when you're emotional, you tend not to make very good financial decisions. One of the things that I see quite a bit is when we get inspections done and the buyer wants the seller to do everything on the list. And that's kind of like making that low ball offer too. So if you're buying a house and it's a resale, it's all going to be typical. It's all going to be based on whatever that market is. Typically, sellers will not do absolutely everything on the list because the inspector's job is to call out 3 areas. Local, state, and national code differences, okay? City code in El Paso overrides the other 2, okay? So if you ask the seller to fix, let's think of something very small, a chip in the sink that's only noticeable if you look from a certain angle, or I see all sorts of things, even like cosmetic stuff. If you're coming in and you're already getting a really good deal on the house, but you come in and you want everything done, and you've also asked the seller to pay all your closing costs, you've already negotiated yourself down so much to the point where by the time we get to the inspections, the seller's probably not going to be too cooperative. Now, does it mean it never happens? No, it does happen. We do see that. But, one of the things that I tell my clients is when you come in, you want to make sure that you focus on safety, functional, structure. Those are the things that are the most important. When you ask for the most important things and not everything, you actually have a much better chance of getting much more done than as opposed to coming in and saying, I want absolutely everything on the inspection report done. Most sellers will come back and say, this is not a new house. If they want a new house, they can just go buy a new house. So you have to think about the fact that, you're the buyer. The saying is the buyer's always right. Okay. However, in a free market where the seller has a right to negotiate whatever they want, the buyer doesn't always have the right to demand everything that they want from the seller because the seller doesn't have to sell to them. Okay. Let's see. The other thing is, a lot of times when I was a younger agent, I would lose buyers to other realtors because they would not want to stay with me because I wasn't telling them everything that they wanted to hear. So my job as a realtor is to fight for the buyers, if I'm representing the buyer, to fight for the buyer's best interest, okay? To get as much as I can for the buyer and to get them the home that they want, okay? Now, all of those things don't necessarily equate me telling the buyer what they want to hear. My job, my fiduciary duty is to tell them what they need to hear. And sometimes what they need to hear may not agree with what they want. Now, if you wind up jumping to somebody that tells you want to hear, then there's kind of a conflict there because they may not always be truthful with you. And when you're making a big financial decision like that, you want somebody that's going to be truthful because that way you make the most informed decision possible. Okay. A lot of times people think that if they go straight to the seller's agent, they're actually saving money. No. What the seller actually pays has already been predetermined before the house even gets posted or listed on the market. So if the seller usually, and this is not fixed or set in stone, but normally the seller will pay the buyer's agent, will pay their agent a certain commission. Then that seller's agent will share part of that commission or half of it with the buyer's agent for procuring or bringing the buyer. So that's done right at the time that the house gets put up on the market. Now, if you're a buyer and you think, I'm just going to go straight to the seller's agent because I'm going to get a better deal, that's not always true. That amount's already been determined. You're not really saving any money. Let's see. You think, when you have buyers looking to buy new construction, they go straight to the builder and they buy straight from the builder. Now, in Texas, and I can only speak for Texas, only realtors can sell real estate, or builders reps, or I should go back and say not just realtors, but licensed real estate agents or realtors can sell real estate, or the people involved in the owners of the transaction, or builders reps can sell builders homes. Now, if you go to a builder's rep and you purchase a new home, you're basically not getting representation. You're also not going to save money because, again, the same thing as the other situation where the amount that's going to be paid out is already been set. So you're not really getting a better deal. And unfortunately, I've heard horror stories where builders reps do tell the buyers, oh, you'll get a better deal. I'll get you more stuff if you come through me. Not true. Builders already come with a set of things or allowances that they're going to give no matter what. Okay. And then the last one, and I'm sure there's more that I'm going to think about after I finish filming this video. And I'm sorry it's so long, but there's a lot of information that I wanted to share. So a lot of people do rent to own. And very few times have I ever seen that work out. 9 times out of 10, it turns out very poorly. They wind up thinking they gave all this money, they've been paying rent, and it all counts towards the purchase. And then lo and behold, they come to find out that the owners haven't been giving payments to their lender, and the house gets foreclosed and the buyer is out. They've done improvements to the house. They've lost their down payment. And unfortunately, because they did not use a Texas contract, they didn't use the proper forms, and they probably didn't use a realtor, they just got duped. And so I would say be very careful. There's a reason why we have the procedures and the forms that we do, and it's really to make sure that we have a very transparent transaction and that all parties know what's involved. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. You can put them in the chat below in the comments, and if I can be of any service to you, whether you're purchasing or selling, feel free to call me or text me. My number is 915-588-3802, and my email is gkelpaso@gmail.com. And again, this is Geraldine with Keller Williams. Have a great day. Bye. Little reminder that my business is based on referrals. Without wonderful people such as yourself, I could not keep my business running. So if you happen to know of anybody, friend, family, coworker, neighbor that is interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, I would love to give them the best level of personal care. Thanks so much. Feel free to reach out, text, email, or call me. Thanks. Bye-bye.